4, 5, and 6, and remove the following in Part 5, Part 7. Sorry, I'll say that again. In paragraph B, remove items 3, 4, 5, and 6, and remove the following in Part 7, quote, the Office of the Minister of Canadian Heritage and the Office of the Prime Minister.
And can you explain what is the rationale around that?
That's what I was about to do. So I'm just wanting to know if the clerk is clear on what I want to remove. The clerk is clear on the parts that I wish to remove, or? Okay, so.
No.
Under paragraph B, remove items 3, which is III, yeah, 4, 5, and 6, and remove the following in part of 7. And the part I'm asking to remove is the Office of the Minister of Canadian Heritage and the Office of the Prime Minister, end quote.
You were still working on your rationale?
Yes, so
You got cut off.
So you could say 7, yes, so
Yeah.
3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And 7, entirety, yes.
okay, great. Okay, so the rationale, and after that, I have on the list Mr. Richards.
Sure. So, look, they show that the department was pushing to listen to the feedback of veterans from every stage, from a very early stage. The Minister of Veterans Affairs took the decision to listen to the voices of veterans based on the overwhelming response it received in the survey and a strong desire to put feedback of veterans first. These documents show that the PMO and PCO were informed of those decisions, which frankly makes sense given the fact that the department were looking to deviate in a significant way from an established procurement process. The last document request from this committee, included PMO correspondent, which the opposition neglects to mention, came back as a nil response. So this has been asked before. I have a hard time seeing how that would justify such an expansive motion on producing documents. It is possible to disagree with the government's decision on the matter, as some have expressed. However, the government was transparent with Team Doust regarding the decision and how it was made. The government informed them of their options for recourse. At the same time, the government has made it clear that based on the clear feedback it received through the online questionnaire regarding the 5 finalist designs, that veterans and their families had a very clear preference. And it wasn't just veterans, actually. The Stimson design was preferred across all questions with majority support. Team Doust were presented with the options for legal recourse in this matter through the Trade Tribunal, amongst others. They appear to have chosen not to go down those roads, and that is their right. But the fact that government continues to move forward with a project now showed not some as may not come as a surprise, since veterans continue to say that they want this monument completed as soon as possible and don't want more delays. Even if Mr. Richards has spoken to this previously, we should move on to this. The production of documents, Chair, has been demanded by the opposition Conservatives in PCO, in ethics, where it was voted down to produce documents from PCO to PMO. Similar production of documents was demanded in a multitude of committees: ethics, foreign affairs, public accounts, and citizenship and immigration, all demanding these vast amounts of production of documents, which frustrates the system. Our minister has appeared here. Multiple meetings have been done. The department has agreed to give production of documents. The process was given. Reasons for the decisions were given. It's quite clear. Yes, there was a jury. It made a recommendation, but a comprehensive survey of veterans was done. It expressed a different perspective, particularly by the veterans and their families. The Minister of Veterans decided to respond to the opinion of veterans. Full stop. That's the end of this. So that's the rationale. I think it's futile to keep going on this. We have a lot of studies, very important studies, that we wish to move on, some of which are from the opposition parties, and everyone, I think, in the interest of veterans should move on this. Therefore, I move this amendment so that we can speed up this the study and move on topics that veterans really affect their lives and their day-to-day transition from CAF to VAC, as well as in their medical needs and other needs that need to be studied, as well as to complete many studies that we have completed, including a women's study, to put that into text and formally submit it into the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sarai. And on my list, I have Mr. Richards and Ms. Blenny right after. Mr. Richards.
Thanks, Chair, and I'll keep this brief as well now that the Liberal members finished reading the talking points he received from the Prime Minister's office about why this Prime Minister, who once was all about openness and transparency, is trying to cover up this political interference. I just want to make sure it's clear what this amendment does. Essentially, what it does is it removes all of the documents which get at the whole heart of the question here, which is what was the Prime Minister's office interfering in this for? Why did they interfere? Now, despite the claims made by the Liberal member, the documents that we previously received indicate to us that there were meetings that took place in the 2-year period after this decision was communicated to the 2 ministers involved, where the Prime Minister's office and Privy Council office were involved in meetings, and where they seem to be driving a process to make changes to this. Now, nobody knows what the reason for that interference was, and that's what these documents are seeking to produce. So by removing all of the documents that relate to either the Prime Minister's office or the Privy Council office, it removes the ability for this committee to get to the bottom of what actually happened and why there was political interference. So it's quite clear that what this is attempting to do is just cover up for the Prime Minister once again. And I certainly would agree with the Liberal member that there are a lot of very important things that this committee needs to get to in terms of things that relate to changes that need to be made in terms of how veterans are treated and dealt with by their government and by this department. In terms of, we constantly see delays and denials in basic services and supports that veterans need, and we need to get to that as well. But we need to get this passed, and we need to keep all of the documents included in this so that we can actually find out why was the Prime Minister's office interfering in this. If you remove all the documents that relate to the Prime Minister's office, clearly you're making sure that that can't happen. The Liberal Party has been given their marching orders by the Prime Minister's office to help him cover up, and hopefully other members of the committee will see that, and we can vote this down quickly, and we can move on to a vote and get this motion passed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richards. And now let's go to Ms. Blenny. You have the floor.
Well, thank you, Chair. And I mean, this has been a frustrating process. I know that I brought forward a notice to motion, putting everybody's wishes in it so that we could try to get this done. Heard a lot of backlash, especially from the Conservatives, so I'm letting it go and trying to get this done. I was clear last time that we were here that I was hoping we would get this finished, and it feels like we're just going in circles. And you know what's sad is that I'm listening to the Conservatives blame the Liberals blame the Conservatives. It's just a lot. And I also know, and I want to thank the analyst so much for his tremendous work, that we just finished a monumental study on veterans that are women, and that the report is sitting there. And sadly, the last couple of weeks, I've been getting messages from veterans who are women who are very concerned that this won't get done, and that the piece of documentation that they wanted to finally be represented in Parliament, because it has never been done before, will be there to give a baseline for the women who served our country and who continue to serve our country. So I'm just really sad to see this continue on. And I will say that I am also frustrated because we know, and I keep hearing this, that there was this great veteran survey and the veterans said, but we still have nothing in the process that clearly states it was veterans. There was no way of knowing that. Now, I trust veterans. I believe that if they knew that there was a survey, they would totally participate. But when I hear that it's going to people's VAC account, like I have to tell you, I talk to veterans every day who talk, well, not every day, multiple times a week, who are calling into those systems or using those systems, and they're traumatized, so they don't go on them anymore. So I don't think it is a really strong statement. And the thing that's frustrating is that there's nothing here to quantify. So if we want to make sure that this monument gets done, and it needs to get done, there's a long history there that we need to acknowledge. But we also have to acknowledge that it being done well and that communication with veterans continues to be a concern. And I find it very interesting to listen to the Conservatives talk about it like they did it well. I remember when they were serving, and there's nothing great to say about the Liberals either. So everybody can shake or nod their heads, but the reality is veterans are struggling across this country in profound ways, and here we are debating this. So I guess I have a couple of questions. The first one is to Mr. Richards. I'm hearing from the Liberals now that many motions like this are being made in multiple committees. So I'm assuming that there's a strategy there that is more political than based on veterans, if I hear that it's happening in other places. I'm wondering with the Liberals if we can at least keep 5 and 6, right? Because we need to figure out what happened. So let's talk about that. I'd like to offer that up. And then, excuse me, I'm still talking. If I could ask the clerk about a timeline. The clerk, because what I'm hearing is if this is happening in other committees, a huge amount of asking for information, does that mean if we pass this, that we'll just be waiting for months and months and months to get that information to our committee to do the work? And that really concerns me. So if we could get some answers, I think that would help me make a decision.
Thank you, Ms. Blaney. But excuse me, Mr. Richard. Answer, but I already have, okay. Yeah, I already have Mr. Desilets who would like to intervene. So, je donne la parole à Monsieur Desilets s'il veut que vous répondiez.
So I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Desilets. If you'd like to answer, please let me know. But Mr. Desilets, you have the floor. Thank you, Chair. Chair, of course, I'm against the proposed amendment from the Liberals because it removes all the meaning from the motion. What we want is to have a trail and aspects that will enable us to find out what happened in this unfortunate situation concerning the monument, that the PMO refused to allow the firm and the Dow team, once again, who were the winning team chosen by the jury, a jury, once again, that is formed of professional and competent people. And it's not the Prime Minister's office that can improvise as a jury or expert in art. So that being said, I fully object to the removal of those points, and I look forward to getting through this. The Conservative motion was tabled on December 20th. I understand that it's part of the game, but the Liberals act like this, but the Conservatives are acting like that. I've rarely seen the Bloc members act like this, though, strangely. I won't be long, but there are two ways in which the Liberals are taking veterans hostage. First of all, once again, by giving them the burden of this change of the winning firm. So the Liberals are using the fact that there is said to have been a survey, which has been said over and over, and they're all smart enough to know that the survey in question has absolutely no credibility. So veterans are being taken hostage in this way, and somewhere along the line, they're being blamed for wanting that monument and that we need to go in that direction, which is undemocratic. Because, once again, there were criteria that the government itself brought in and did not respect. That's the first way. The second way, which is actually quite comical, that you say that you look forward to moving on to something else so that we can hear from the veterans, but you're taking the veterans hostage by doing this filibustering, this motion being carried, and move on to something else and bring in the veterans to hear from them. So if you want to play that game, then we will play it somewhere along the line. We'll be here to listen, but that doesn't involve listening to veterans. They ought to be here at the next meeting, and this motion ought to have been carried quite some time ago. Thank you for listening, Chair. Mr. Desilets, thank you for your comments, and we will now hear Mr. Richards.
Ms. Blaney had asked a question and indicated it was to me specifically, one of her questions, and it was related to motions in other committees or something. And I'll just say I'm not aware what these motions are. I don't know what's happening in these other committees that she's referring to. But what I can tell her is that this motion was something I brought forward about 4 months ago to begin with, simply to try to get to the bottom of this, to find out for veterans what exactly